Hey, folks, wake up. We got a guest.
No guest. Hey, come on. We got it. Don't yell at the people, Glenn. You're gonna scare them.
That's the way to start a show.
Maybe. All right. So, folks, for those that don't know, and if you're here, I'd be very surprised you don't know. I am Greg Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, as he is twice a month, every other Friday, none other than old man Grognard himself, Glenn Hallstrom. And with us is the one, the only, Mr. Barrowmaze, Greg Gillespie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, definitely.
The guy
we wouldn't have it any other way. So, folks, Greg was kind enough to give me a preview of Dragonslayer, which has been kickstarted. It was successfully funded. How well did it do? Again, Greg, it did pretty well, if I recall.
50 and change.
Not bad.
How long did it take?
2.5 years.
How long did it take to fund?
A day.
Well, nice. All right.
Nice.
Well, that's spot on. So now I've spoken with Greg about Dragonslayer in the past. We've bounced back and forth discussing it, and I was intrigued by it. There's a lot of stuff in it that I found very interesting, and I know Greg has been making the rounds on social media. And although I haven't seen the interviews, I know Greg Christopher has been watching them. Greg is one of our hosts on the other Fridays where we don't have Glenn with us. And Greg was saying that there's a lot of little pieces in Dragonslayer that he goes, if he doesn't crib and whole, he's going to crib and part, because there's just a lot of great ideas. And that's coming from another game designer, which is always a fun thing to hear.
You're not a GM unless you crib.
Well,
no, you got to crib. You got to big borrow and steal. But,
poach away, my friends.
So, by the way, hello to Saint Cuthbert, Mobius, Esteban,
hi, folks.
Tianus,
hi, Doc.
James, Doc. Oh my God! We're gonna have to get a bounce.
My homie Doc, my California homie Doc.
Your California homie Doc. So again, a lot of this is going to be to hear, not just hang out and talk with Greg, but to talk about Dragonslayer, because as I've been flipping through the rules that Greg has been nice enough to show me, it feels very familiar, and at the same time adds a lot of stuff. Like I was telling, not to let a cat out of the bag, but this is the first time I've seen a monk class that I want to play it. First time I've seen a monk class that I can actually understand and not try to figure out, okay, next I do D3 punching damage this level, but next level is a D4, but then it's a D5. Oh God, what's going on? Greg does a great job making it appropriate and feel comfortable for someone who is playing a fantasy RPG in a faux medieval age. So I gotta say, I mean, really, really sweet and well done. But I've done enough yapping. Greg, why don't you tell us what Dragonslayer is, and I guess what it isn't?
Sure. So the short pitch would be it uses the engine that we're comfortable with of BX, and what has the Chrome of AD&D, and then there's my house rules in there. So as you noted, it's immediately familiar. I don't think a great game needs to be, the wheel needs to be remade. Rather, there are a lot of organic tweaks that have happened at my table. So my players have always been very kind to allow me to experiment. And then we would sort of pool our feedback on various things, how to run classes, how to run spells, things like that. So you're going to find everything's pretty familiar, but it's at its core, it's got the engine of BX, and it's got the Chrome of AD&D, and the nature of the rules and the low power curve encourages people to play much closer to their class than in, say, straight BX or straight AD&D. And that's part of the idea, is to play to the strengths of your classes and then have at it.
Because again, I was enjoying the folks, the tweaks that you're going to look at when we discuss this. They're not overwhelming. They aren't going to go, oh my God, this is. You're going to go, why didn't I think of that? Like, why didn't I as a DM, I used to have a love-hate for Rangers in the party, especially the beginning party, because the beginning Ranger always had a Constitution bonus, had maximum hit points at first level, so and it had 2 hit dice, so you had a first level character tooling around, 16 24 hit points, or some insane number like that at first level, and Greg's little tweak was, they can still be the hit point soaker, just can be spread out a little bit better. So if the fighting classes are D10 for hit points, they're going to be a D12. And I saw that right away, and I went, it makes so much more damn sense. It really, really does. And I really, really like the way it breaks down there. RPG Grandma, by the way, welcome as always.
Hello.
Hello, Granny.
But tell me, let me know when you want me to start sharing, some shots from the PDF. But in the meantime,
Well, whatever you like.
Oh, all right. Okay. This, like I mentioned before the show started, this artwork says so much, and like I said, it's not a hugely complicated piece of artwork. There's a lot going on. It's black and white with not even like grayscale, but it really is striking in Dragonslayer. Starts out with the dragon being slain, probably by a ranger judging by how he was dressed. And I think that likely there's a great way to tell you what to expect from the rule set to follow. If I'm not mistaken, it could be.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of grayscale in my art. It doesn't reproduce well, so I like to stay high contrast, black and white, and that's exactly what you do here. I know what you'll see carried forward.
I will remember that in the future.
Yeah, it really is. It really is striking.
It pops. It really does pop.
And again, without being overwhelming, there are some great pieces of art that you get overwhelmed by. This one just.
Yeah, that one's right in my wheelhouse. It's great.
So, looking at the table of contents, we are looking at about 300 pages. Introduction, equipment. By the way, Greg does something that I think pretty much, unless you're Joe the lawyer who likes to spend a whole session shopping. Greg, and I joke because it's not a joke. Greg, what do you actually call them? Because ye old
fast packs.
Ye old fast packs. So you have fast packs for the classes. You have fast packs, for your basic supplies, and it is spot on. It allows you to get your character. You can do all your full shopping. Okay, you can do your Walmart shopping later on in your character's career. You need what you need to start out. This is a great way to do it without, again, using a whole session.
You want to get right in there, and especially so there's different ways of thinking about this. So I'm writing, the book's intended really for the veteran player, but it also has to be written so that it is comprehensible to the new player. So if you have this book sitting on your coffee table and your 12-year-old picks it up, and they should be able to make sense of it. So there's different ways of thinking about it, but at the end of the day, by writing for the novice player, I'm also writing for the veteran player. And in addition to, as we all know, with any role-playing game, regardless of which one you like, there's the written rules, and then there's the unwritten rules of role-playing games. And so I take, in the appendices, I take a more casual tone to talk about the unwritten rules of role-playing games, and I use a little bit of humor to be entertaining as well.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the appendices, and includes an FAQ, Magic User 101, which I haven't read yet, but I'm assuming it says things like what to do once you've cast your single spell.
Exactly.
There you go. Sage advice, carousing, optional rules, but you need carousing rules in my opinion. Dragonslayer Time Wheel. That's not the Wheel of Time, thank God. A horrible, horrible on-demand series. But
No.
oh, God. So what is this wheel?
Well, the idea is one of the hardest things to do if you're coming to role-playing games, especially something like BX or AD&D. You have to keep track of torches or lanterns. You have to keep track of rest periods. You have to keep track of random monsters every other turn. So what the wheel does is it helps the novice player acknowledge what's happening and when until they get the hang of it. And once you get the hang of it, you don't necessarily need to use it, but it's very helpful as an instructional tool to guide the novice player.
Dude, that is awesome. And that way they don't have to I don't know, put money down on MCDM, Matt Colville's RPG that doesn't track torches or food or do hexes and isn't even written yet, but he's, pocketing millions of dollars. They can ignore that because Greg is giving you a nice, simple tool to figure out what we've been doing for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was never really explained well.
No, was
it? Not to the. It was kind of a mess, and it just needed to be simplified.
Which is great. That's the whole thing. We've muddled through it. Every gaming group probably hand waved certain aspects because, oh, jeez. Do you have rations? Well, no, rations are good for bribing. Sometimes you want to run away for a month, so you throw rations. But they don't like iron rations. They need standard rations because you don't even like iron rations.
They're your MREs.
Yeah, pretty much. Now you have 100 random sarcophagus content. That is awesome. Glenn will be back, folks. He's having I want to say visual difficulties. He's having connection difficulties where he's flickering. So he's not really a ghost, but he plays one on TV. But he will return. Dungeon dressing, scroll and book titles. This is stuff that, there are people that sell these similar lists for $1 or $2 a pop on drive-thru. I doubt they're going to be as evocative as what Greg has in the back of this book, personally, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, just some examples, some inspiration, and then if people, you can tweak the titles if you want to make them specific to your campaign. I've tweaked them so they're specific to mine with a couple little fun homages in there as well, but you'll find unique results in there.
Awesome. Dragonslayer Death Certificate. This makes me feel almost Knights of the Dinner Table-ish. It's like, oh, you died. All right, here's your certificate. Can you frame it? I'm sure you can.
I'm waiting to see people post pictures of their corkboard with 100 sheets up there.
There you go. That's always the way to do it. And epilogue, shall ye enter? Now I'm guessing that is telling players to put these rules into effect and start gaming.
Well, it's there's actually an image, so I end it with an image on that page that's sort of evocative of the gateway to adventure. So we can check that out.
Oh, like the old TSR ads in the back of their little mailers.
Yeah, that phrase is used in Mazes and Monsters as well. Tom Hanks.
Oh, okay.
And everyone says "I."
Okay. Mm-hmm. So now I am going to go back to this. Now the character sheet looks about as complicated as I would ever want it. This is it. This is clean. It's simple.
Yeah.
And it has something for everything I need.
Yeah, it finds inspiration in character sheets of old and yet provides a restatement with a little bit of Celtic knot work.
Helen, no OSR Christmas this Friday. OSR Christmas will be on the next 2 Fridays. It will be on the next 3 Talking Crits on Wednesday night. And, of course, on the blog, there'll be another day kicking off this weekend, probably tomorrow. Yes, OSR Christmas. Some really cool stuff in the OSR Christmas grab bags. Now, going back to the Dragonslayer sheet, you even have room for henchmen and hirelings on these 2 pages, which is amazing compared to what even regular OSR games can manage to fit on their character sheets. And the assumption that you'll be able to have the stats for 3 hirelings or henchmen.
Players will want to have more if they can, but I normally cap it. So, depends on how big the party is. If it's a small group of players, then you need some more hirelings. And if not, then you can go short on the hirelings.
All right, let's take a little. I read your terminology. I'm not saying it's bog standard to every other RPG out there, but it does take care of the basics that people need to know, especially if they're coming to this from not just outside the OSR, but outside of tabletop gaming.
That's right. This is to hit that novice player. I mean, we don't need to review what hit dice are, or hit points are, or armor class, but you need to have it in there for the novice player. Oops, I have my 20-sided die with me tonight.
No dropping dice is bad luck.
I know, that's true.
Now, Dragonslayer has 6 tenants. This is in the introduction area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the first one is one that is often forgotten, not thought of. I don't think I've seen anybody put it into words. But after reading it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's should be player rule number 1.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's rule 0, but ask exact questions.
Yes. So the kind of game I play is, you won't be surprised to know, it leans a little bit more on the intellectual side. So it's aim small, miss small. If you ask direct and specific questions, you'll get detailed and specific answers. If you ask general questions, you get general answers. So that's, I think asking good questions is like line 1 of being a good student. And I think if you're listening tonight, or you really enjoy D&D, you're a student of the game. And so we need to make sure that we're always asking specific questions to get specific answers.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that is often overlooked. And to actually see it spelled out succinctly, that is something that, again, surprised me. Rulings over rules, we understand that.
Yep.
The League of Ordinary Gentlemen. This is to, I guess, shake up the 5e players and remind them they are not superheroes.
Correct.
They are ordinary people in an extraordinary situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, again, something that if you're going to be, especially capturing people from the 5e, I don't know, refugees.
Exodus?
Yeah, the Exodus, the refugees, they're looking for asylum. This is something that they need to understand is a difference, because
that's why it's there. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Game balance, which pretty much says throw it out the window.
Throw it out the window.
Your game balance is you making the proper decision based upon the GM giving you the proper information.
Right.
That your game, it's like, this sounds like it could be a TPK situation. Let's do it anyway. Greg would never kill us.
Never.
Never. What type of metal is the dwarven bartender's beard jewelry? What? Mr. Gunn, I'll let you all figure that one out. You can Maybe we'll do a giveaway at the end of this show if you have a good enough answer on that one. I have no idea, but oh, jeez. All right, so I'm catching up on the chat here. Phaedru's live. I think a lot of the exodus is wishful thinking. The majority of 5e players will give the OSR. Will give the OSR. You probably meant won't give the OSR a second thought. To young person,
it doesn't matter. You still have, when you write a game, you're writing for. You have to think about the novice player, the person who's picking it up for the first time. So
Right.
whether you introduce your young person to it or whether somebody else picks it up, you still have to explain the basics.
And listen, if you are anyone who's either involved in publishing or has their fingers on the pulse that's going on in the gaming hobby, you've seen that there's been pushback on 5e with the OGL scandal from last year. And if you've been around long enough, you know that edition change always results in players that either feel they're being abandoned and will not leave their current system, which is why they're claiming it's still 5e, D&D Next, or forever, or whatever. But you also have people who go, oh, F this game, I'm going to play something else. So you got to be ready for it. I'm not saying it's going to be a huge wave, but it doesn't need to be, as long as you're ready for it. Let me catch up with you. Shape of an evil. Is that a Wonder Twins comment there? It must
Wonder
be.
Twins activate.
Form of, I don't know, a Watsy monkey.
Form of a sensitivity reader, which sensitivity readers were harmed in the making of Dragonslayer, just so you know.
I can believe that.
Yeah. The next one is who's in control. And I thought this one was important to address because, you know, our like old school games often get derided for DM fiat or whatever. And the players actually hold a great deal of power in how the game plays out, when the referee rolls dice. And I think that's sort of like a casual criticism from people that don't actually play OSR games.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hit that one.
And here's the thing: where the market share speaks for itself, peel off just a small part of the WotC market share, that's sizable to other publishers. That's just, you know, you are comparing it. It's not even apples to mandarins. I mean, size is certainly different, but you cut off a big enough slice, that could be larger than whole other segments of this hobby.
The last one there are dice rolls. So I don't know how people play in their home games, but in mine, the DM rolls thief skills.
Right.
But like that only happens at the end. So picking a lock, finding a trap, removing a trap, things like that. Those are normally dealt with qualitatively. And then I only go to a dice roll if they're to break a tie or if there's something left unsure. So what I do when commenting on dice rolls is just make it clear who rolls dice and when, and so that just sort of addresses that. And thief skills are the real pain in the butt, so you have to sort that out.
Yeah, they've been a pain in the butt since the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm. Do that.
You know, that and detecting sloping passages and anything that has detect in it that is a random ability is going to be something that is in some games not well explained. Like in AD&D, we didn't initially know who was supposed to be making those rolls. Common sense determined it later.
Yes.
But the reality was like, well, I failed my find. Well, then you don't find any traps. But what if there weren't any traps? But I don't know. By the way, so folks, just so you know, it's going to be me and Greg. Glenn just called his internet service provider Cox, which is apparently why he was flickering. and they have an outage in his part of the Oakley home estate. So unless they happen to de-outage it, uh, you're going to be stuck with the two of us.
We'll carry the load.
We'll carry the load as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make it work.
We will.
By the way, Noi, neither of the personalities or the faces that you see on the screen right now give a flying fig about cancellation. Okay?
No, don't care.
Don't. I've already done a video about why I can't be canceled, and believe me, they try. But in any case,
Shall we move forward?
yeah, let's move forward. We're gonna go past the terminology because unless there was something in the terminology that was unique to Dragonslayer, which I didn't recall seeing in my scan, but
No, it's all the standard stuff you'd expect to see in a terminology section.
okay. Now, something I did notice about the ability scores, which I think again makes sense, and I'm not sure why it wasn't done in other versions of the game. Dexterity. Dexterity adds not just to your attack roll, but to your damage roll with missile weapons.
Yes.
We used to have arguments in AD&D 1.
I know.
Oh my god! Well, do I get my strength damage bonus to my bow? Oh, jeez. No.
Is it ranged? Is it hurled? I mean, that debate bores me. So it's just strength for melee attack and damage, and it's dexterity for any missile weapon attack and damage.
That works really, really well. I said this before, and not blowing smoke up Greg's ass, because believe me, I know Greg too well to do that. But this is common sense stuff that I am looking at and going, that makes so much sense. It could have easily. It's like having that V8 moment. I'm showing my age. I should have had a V8. Somebody should have thought about that. It is common sense. It's nice to see. It really, really is. And of course, the stats are in the order they're supposed to be.
Yes.
Not the modern era strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, but strength, intelligence, wisdom,
dexterity, constitution, charisma.
It's the way the way the gods intended.
It is. We're doing God's work here.
So, character races. Now you add in the Cyclops man,
mm-hmm.
which feels to me it reminds I was the guy who always used to take classes and races from Dragon Magazine and experiment with them in my campaigns because it was always fun. And I enjoyed the half ogres because they were kick-ass, but my players also learned real quickly that they were large creatures and quickly got their asses handed to them because they took a lot more damage than everybody else did. But I do like the way the Cyclops man can be a paladin. It's like they're not evil brutes. They are a little dim-witted, but they have a sense of honor, and I like that. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, every time I've play tested, everyone wants to play a monk or they want to play a Cyclopsman, and it turns out pretty well. And so just so people know, you know how you have to have really tremendous rolls to play a paladin, and that makes that class rare and unique. The same thing with the Cyclopsan. The Cyclopsan's harder to qualify for, but that's on purpose. It's that race is supposed to be rare, like the paladin class is rare. So they're not supposed to be all over the place, and if you qualify, then have at it.
Wait, if your dungeon... Oh, see, that's the reason why we couldn't have Matt Jackson on Your Dungeon Has Ladders. Matt, it's an obligatory joke on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And Matt almost died falling off a ladder at his old job. And in our gaming group, we always have to include a ladder in the dungeon just to have it there. Matt's playing in a session. So we love you, Matt. Thank God the ladder didn't kill you. You know, it was a 0 level creature anyway. You shouldn't have fallen to it. Yeah, they are. They are a little bit taller. They're 6'3" to 6'8", single eye. Now, I was about to say, do they have an issue with ranged attacks? Because I look right now and I say yes, -2 to ranged attacks, which is perfectly common sense.
Depth perception.
Depth perception. It just makes common sense. I'm sorry. I'm doing my Anthony Fauci voice, and it's probably falling as flat as my not having any more boosters. Okay. In any case, I am catching up on some of these chats here. Yes, Wonky, big fan of mods affecting ranged attack damage.
Yeah,
And it makes sense because your attacks are going to be more accurate. If it's more
it does. It's just more elegant. It's simple. It's not going to confuse new players. And like if you're thinking about it, if you got like you want to play like an elven fighter who's like a ranger person, or an archer, then he or she would be sniping, and you can explain the damage that way. So I think it works great, perfectly.
Yeah, no, that looks really cool. I not to give a spoiler away, I like the fact that you included illusionists. I like to play some of those not quite common character classes, especially if we have a well-rounded out party. Who needs a second mage when you can specialize in something that may or may not be useful?
Well, the illusionist, because Gaiax always had the magic user as his sort of like pet cat, the druid and the illusionist get hosed. So
Yep.
I've tried to ameliorate that past injustice and also make them give them more options for their spells, make them more playable. I'm not a big, huge fan of the illusionist personally, but
Right.
I know some people are, and I thought we should address that.
So the rest of the races are the familiar races that we know from the D&D, AD&D era of gaming. Now, and I don't know if you noticed this, because I'll be the first one to say that I didn't notice this until Greg pointed it out to me, is that the layout is important here. Like the cleric, it's all on the 2 pages. You're not page flipping. The races were on, I believe, 4 pages. So it's all there's none of this weird off-kilter class starting in the middle of the page. It's all laid out nice and neat in 2 and 4 page spreads, pretty much. So when you're reading your cleric, it's all there in front of you.
Yeah. Once you put on the cleric page, you've got your left-hand page, your right-hand page, and on that page, you've got the level 1 saving throws, you've got your spells, you've got your turns, you've got your yield fast packs, and all you just need to do is flip to the spell section and pick your spells, and you're good to go.
Can elves play Rangers rules as written?
Yeah, I believe so. I've got it right here. Let me look at the level, though. That's the key thing. No, I actually don't have the half elf can be a ranger, but
half elf can be a ranger up to level 8.
Yeah, I misspoke. The half elf can.
That's a fair compromise. Now, I don't think. Again, I'm going to take my pointer out here.
Mm-hmm.
On this side over here, we have 3 cleric packs, the fast packs, and this allows you to start out with armor, weapons, backpack, small sacks, your holy water, your holy symbol, chalk, water skin, torches, flint and tinder, rations, quill, parchment and ink, or trade out some of that stuff for a crowbar or a pole. You don't have to spend all session doing shopper's math, and this is all done for you. And he gives you, this pack is 92 gold pieces, this is 97, this is 70, depending on how much coinage you have available.
Right, that's right. I tried to pick with each of them different levels, so if you roll low for your starting gold pieces, there's still something you can choose from.
Yeah, Dave, I really can't get him because especially now that we don't have Glenn with us, I need to actually use the two screens. I know your eyesight is horrible. It's got to take my word for it. Wait for the PDF to release. But yeah, if I get it a little bit larger by using my main screen, then I won't see anything else going on, and I don't have Glenn as a experienced co-host to keep the yapping going. So uh, that's what happens when next. Maybe next year I'll get myself one of those high-end 37-inch screens, and then I can fit it all.
And the kind of thing you're seeing here in terms of layout. There's every line is used, so it's very rare to see any sort of gap in layout. You can see this is right to the line, which makes it a colossal pain in the arse if you find something you needed to revise, but well worth doing, well worth the time and effort, and it just fits very neatly together.
And as for readability, which is going to be important to people like me and my old aging eyes, and I do know again for Dave and others, this I'm gonna name something, and it's not a knock because it's probably my favorite OSR system, but the Swords and Wizardry Complete rulebook, which is a great rulebook, I can't use my current printing because the font is too damn small, and so I go to my classic Earl Lotus version, the blue cover, and this layout from Greg is at least as readable as the older versions of Swords and Wizardry Complete. So that's what I hold up, because that is the book that generally goes with me if I'm running a game. If I'm not running Swords and Wizardry Light, I'm running Complete. So now that may change with Dragonslayer because I'm seeing a lot of shit that I really like, and it feels comfortable. So.
Well, I have chronic dry eyes, and they're worse in the evening than the day, and they're not very good during the day. So if I'm gaming at nighttime, I can't use a rule book with a very small point size. So I had a minimum point size with the layout of this book, and it's very favorable to the person if they have any visual impairment at all, or somebody like me that has super dry eyes. So that was at the forefront of my mind as well.
Yeah, I somehow get the feeling that this would have been squashed into like a page and a third in the Swords and Wizardry Complete book. I mean, again, my favorite rule set thus far. Haven't finished reading Dragonslayer, but Swords and Wizardry is my wheelhouse. It is my bread and butter, and the latest printing, I can't read. Looks beautiful. I can't read. Catching up on the talk here. Greg, I would hate using the tiny bastards books then. Okay. And yes, Dave, you're blind in one eye and can barely see out of the other. I know.
Well, this might help, this book, I think.
Greg, is it fair to say the difference between your game and OSE Advanced is Dragonslayer scales BX up to AD&D power levels, while OSE scales down AD&D to BX levels?
Well, what specifically are we talking about with power levels? Are we talking the equivalent of like attack bonus? What are we referencing specifically? Yeah. Right. So the engine is BX, but the Chrome is related to AD&D. So yes, it's closer to AD&D in that regard, but the power curve is lower than AD&D and a touch lower than BX. Having said that, by encouraging people to play to their classes, there are all kinds of tactical bonuses to be had. So for example, if you flank an opponent, there's a bonus. If you attack on high ground, there's a bonus. If you attack a prone opponent, there's a bonus. There's all kinds of ways to get it. If you get into point blank range with your missile weapons, there's a bonus. So although the power curve that's going to appear in your character sheet is low, there are ways tactically to get bonuses. And if you play to your class abilities, those are easy to access, particularly with the fighter ability.
Right. Now, I was saying before, the monk class, it I read this class, and it just the first off, the artwork is Friar Tuck. Okay, it's got that shaved bald head with a little rim of hair.
Tonsard. Mhm.
Yep. And it's a character class that excels in using the quarterstaff, which is fun as all hell.
They're
Because-
quarterstaff specialists, so they get bonuses when they use the quarterstaff.
Yep. And their armor, they're not armor wearers, if I recall correctly.
No armor.
But their armor class bonus increases by 1 per level, which is reminiscent of the old monk, certainly in the way it should be. But it isn't somebody going out there doing martial arts on people. They are a quarterstaff specialist. They are the epitome of the poor priest.
Yes.
And it's the way they should be played. They get spells. So before somebody goes, well, do I get like a finger of death? No, but you get cleric spells as if you were a cleric.
Later on, you do, yes. So we kept the maneuverability of the AD&D monk, which was core, but we got rid of the kung fu because who wants that? And we emphasized the monastic monk. So the cleric, it's not infringing on the cleric's terrain. The cleric is still unique. The cleric still has access to spells and to healing in ways that the monk does not. But the monk is still is a support fighter, a learned scholar, and so you can. It's a pretty neat class to play and fun in combat too.
Yeah, it really, really looks spot on and great for that utility character class where it's like, there were times, honestly, like a lot of times I want to play a cleric because there's no other cleric in the party or whatever. And I'm fine with that because I'm fine with being the second string fighter, but the first string healer. But this class fills in all these little different abilities, and you still need good scores. You got to dump a 15 into wisdom, a 15 into dex, 12 into strength, 12 into intelligence.
No slouch, not a slouch at all. So you have to qualify. Mm-hmm.
And their monk packs are inexpensive, but the reality is you might not have enough money to buy one without poaching money off the other players because the monk packs start at 12 gold pieces, and if you roll average gold pieces, you're going to have 12 and a half gold pieces.
That's right.
So it's going to be touch and go. But
you might have to go shopping because the monk has a vow of poverty, can only have 20 gold pieces.
Oh wow! So yeah. But it looks like a lot of fun to play. That's a real nice change, I got to say. Now, the fighter adds an ability that I've seen a variation in other OSR style games, but I like how this one fits. If a fighter kills a target, she or he immediately receives 1 additional attack per 2 levels. So, at level 1, 1 extra attack, level 3, 2 attacks, so on. Cleave applies to both melee and missile attack forms.
Yeah.
This is when your character become a little heroic, but you gotta leave a body iffy to do that. And that's like a Conan scene. That's what you expect from that.
So this takes the fighter from vanilla and makes the fighter super cool, and it's just it's subtle, but it works so well at the table. So if your fighter can go into combat and slay a target and then get a second free attack based on slaying the first target, then what you really want to do is you want to soften the heck out of your opponent before you send your fighter in. Because if you do that and the fighter wades in and wham, kills the first target, and then they get a second attack, now you're really talking. So this encourages people to play to their class, and it works. It's like seamless at the table. It just works so well.
Sure. And it also means that, all right, I am fighting an ogre and a goblin. Well, you know what? Maybe swing at the goblin first, get rid of the chaff. And if you kill it with that first blow, which you're likely to do, you still get your attack on the ogre. Which the other way, you're going to have to whittle it down. and the other thing's still going to be attacking you. It adds a different tactic to the game, which I got to say, I really do like how that works.
And here's the thing: the barbarian and the paladin get access to it, but only much later. So you really do want to play that fighter for the first, 6-7 levels before the barbarian and the paladin get access to it.
So the barbarian it's not the Unearthed Arcana barbarian. It isn't D12 hit dice. I didn't catch double stat bonuses on this barbarian, but it gives me a very much of not just a Conan feel, but like a picked type of feeling, at least from the art.
Yeah, no, it's definitely there, and there's some fun little things in here. So there's coward sense, so a barbarian can tell if somebody's going to has a chance to detect somebody trying to attack them from behind. They can there's what sorcery is this, where the barbarian can have an opportunity to look through an illusion. So there's some cool things in there. And the barbarian's very much it's a compromise between the raging barbarian and the fighter thief barbarian. So you can take that for what it's worth. It's very fun.
Well, thief abilities like move silently, climb walls, hear a noise. I mean, that's it's the stealth that you would expect from a barbarian.
Yeah.
I think it fits very well. The paladin, which is a lance specialist, which is a nice little tweak. It harkens back a little bit, I guess, to the Cavalier Paladin class of Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah, there's a little bit there, that's for sure. But I think that there was an opportunity to take the paladin and make him or her a little more knightly, and so that's what we've done here.
Well, I can certainly see that, and I can. By the way, folks, that charisma 17 that you remember from AD&D, it's still there.
Yeah.
So
natural born leaders.
Now, by the way, we didn't mention this, but the default character generation rolling in Dragonslayer is roll 3d6 7 times, drop the lowest.
That's right.
So it's not 46, drop all ones, re-roll all ones. It's not roll 3d6 12 times and drop them all. If your character has good ability scores, you're going to want to use them to the best. And then if you have enough good ability scores to be a paladin, and dump your 17 in charisma,
you're doing well. Yeah,
you're doing real well.
17 in charisma, you're doing well. But the thing with that works really well with the paladin is so there's a not ability, but a restriction called forlorn or forsworn, pardon me. And so the paladin can't commit evil, nor can they watch evil acts and not interfere. So they're have to play the lawful good role. Okay. Having said that, I like my paladins kind of like a bit sanctimonious and smug. So like that's how I tweak the paladin at the table, but people can graft it into their home game and go whichever direction they like.
So now the ranger class, and I think I mentioned this earlier. So the ranger class handles rangers being that hit point. I don't want to use. I hate using that word tank. We use it in MMOs because it's a totally different type of game. But he's your hit point soaker. He's the individual, the loner too. I mean, makes sense. He has hit points to survive it, but it's not 2d8 at first level. It's a d12 over the course of 10 levels, and that will significantly increase the average hit points. It's an increase. It's about a 20% increase over the average fighter rolled out, and that's great. Because that's a character that And a lot of campaigns is going to be adventuring solo if an NPC, which makes sense that they should be able to handle a little bit more danger.
Right, and the ranger is the loner archetype, right? That good warrior, the kind of the first line of defense in the wilderness against an evil horde or warband coming against a village. So they need those extra hit points.
So now they also get cleave, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
But it starts at 8th level.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So that's something to really consider. So if you're thinking I want to play that character that just girds loins and wades into battle, you probably want to go with the fighter. If you want to play something a little bit more specialized, then you can go to the ranger or the paladin, if rolls allow.
Now, you got magic users, which humans, elves, half elves. D4 hit points. There's no surprises there.
No.
You do allow arcane channeling, which allows them to swap any first level spell for detect magic or read magic.
Yep.
Which was a house rule I wish that we had thought about back in the late 70s, early 80s, because nobody ever wanted to waste a spell slot on any of those, but they were useful.
Very useful,
in the right circumstance. So to be able to swap them in when needed is really spot on.
It just allows a little bit of flexibility, and the cleric has a little bit of flexibility in that regard as well.
Now, am I reading this right that even a first level magic user with enough money could actually write a scroll?
Yeah, but the likelihood of them having that much money is unlikely.
I know. I'm just saying that here's the thing. The ability, even at low levels, to write scrolls, knowing players like I know them, it's a money sink, not just for the magic user, but for an intelligent party in general to say, oh, well, hey, why don't you write an extra sleep spell and have it ready? Well, all right, well, everybody in the party give up 50 gold pieces so we can spend the time. It's a money sink that doesn't change the power curve, and it doesn't require giving extra spells to the player to use or memorize and all that stuff. And it's something that you can control by controlling the money that's being put into the environment.
That's right. And so there's a limit on the number of levels you can put into a scroll. There's a cost, and then there's also time. So I don't know how people run their games, but when we're out of game, so if we don't play for 2 weeks, that's 2 weeks of time that's passed in the game context. So there's a time requirement to write a scroll, subject to how many spell levels you're putting into it.
That's now. Then I got a question. All right, so that's spell, not level of the spell, but spell levels. So
yeah, so you can only put up to 3rd level spells, and only 3 spell levels per scroll, and 250 per level.
Okay.
With a 1 week writing time per level. So there are limitations on it, but if you want to spend the time and effort and you want to do it, you can. And it works very well. And again, it gives a little bit more flexibility in the spell front.
Noi wants to know, are there AD&D training rules when advancing to the next level?
Big no on that, because it's boring.
Well, I think the carousing rules will probably take care of that anyway. But
yeah, if you really wanted to do training, you could do it through the carousing optional rules for sure.
Oh, that's John talking to RPG Grandma. Good to see you guys are getting along. Yeah, other people use the real-time system. Okay. Now, all right. So, and the initial magic user spells are determined randomly. That's pretty common.
So you have detect magic, read magic, and write, and then you get you have to roll for an offensive spell, a defensive spell, and a utility spell, and that gives you a good starting point for your magic user.
That works out pretty well. Okay. The illusionist, like I said, I am partial to illusionists only because I like to do non-standard stuff. And if it's only a 4-person group, no, I won't play an illusionist. But we already have a magic user in the group, and all the other traditional roles are filled. You may see me take an illusionist or an illusionist thief or a gnome. I know.
But here's the thing. So the illusionist is crafted such that if no one's playing a magic user and someone chooses to play an illusionist, you're not at a disadvantage. So there is some integration between the magic user spell list and the illusionist spell list to give the illusionist a little bit more flexibility like the magic user has, but not step on the magic user's feet. And then there are some new spells in there as well.
Okay. And something I failed to mention, high ability scores give bonus spells, which is...
yeah, so it's the Gygax rule for intelligence or wisdom of 15, right?
Yep.
So then you get one, if you're 15 or higher, you get a bonus first level spell and a bonus second level spell.
See, that works. Now, something I haven't even seen. Is there multi-classing in this game?
There is, but just the main classes of fighter, cleric, magic user, and thief.
Oh, okay.
So you have to, if you're going to multi-class or triple class, it's only within those 4 classes.
All right, so then my gnome illusionist would have to be house ruled by my DM. Okay.
Well, I guess so. But that's pretty fine. People can do that.
I know. It's all right. So now, the thief class looks pretty standard to me. Backstab, of course, but you explain that backstab must be from behind using move silently and hide in shadows.
Yeah, that's pretty standard fare for the thief. The key thing with the thief is I've adjusted thief skills so that you can actually perform some of these things. And the other thing is I take an opportunity to say a few sentences on each of the abilities. And if you do need to roll for those, so number one, qualitative interpretation of thief skills comes first. A roll only comes last. And then some additional detail on each of the abilities to help people running the game relative to thief skills. And on the bottom right-hand corner, the racial thief skill bonus for the thief abilities are all right there. So you're not going to have to flip back to the races section.
Which makes a lot of sense. By the way, John Miller says, are you all catching the references in the art? He-Man, Fire and Ice, and more. I did not catch the references, but...
There are references all the way throughout. So if you're familiar with my Mega Dungeons, you know I trickle things in there, just a little nods to the people out there.
Yeah. You have an assassin class. Again, this is a homage to AD&D, so that would be expected.
I'm not a huge assassin person, but it's there. The only class that I don't even consider it standard. The Bard is not in the core rule book.
No.
Nobody in my gaming group likes to play Bard, so if you're terribly disappointed about that, sorry. But I'm quite sure that someone can take the third-party license and make a Bard if they're really bent out of shape about it.
Yeah, I might throw a stab at that. My first, dare I say, published work was in Knoxville, and that was a Swords and Wizardry Bard class. I look back at it, and that was written right before I got married, so that's 12 years ago. It's shite, but I'm a bit better at some of that stuff. So maybe I'll give it a shot. Having an advanced look at Greg's stuff may allow me to get my timing done on that one too.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Maybe you get a Bard class. Can humans multi-class?
Yep, there's no limitation on multi-classing by race. So does that race qualify for the classes to multi-class is the question that you need to ask. No, there's no acrobat. Lame. lame, and more lame.
Night, Dave.
Night, Dave.
Noi, I'm looking forward to Barrowmaze. I just got my drive-through print order link for the Kickstarter this week.
I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What I like the most about Barrowmaze is that you can run it like a mega dungeon, or you can literally rip pieces out and use them as needed, and it works fine either way. It's amazing how that just takes care of.
Yeah, I do try to make things modular. So, for example, you can take the barrow mounds from Barrow Maze, you can take the caves from Archaea, you can take the towers from Highfell, and you could literally just sort of like sprinkle them through your hex crawl, and they'd work well.
So, okay. Let me now. Your alignments are the usual 9.
Yep.
9-point alignment. Yeah, I would say 10. But it's like, yeah, neutral is part of the 3 neutral axe size.
Do you want to show some of the spell lists?
Yes, because I noticed that the spell list
46. There you go. There's
cleric,
the cleric and the druid there.
Cleric and druid is on, and the cleric and druid stuff. I hate saying things like they're bog standard, but they're mostly what you expect to see on it. Although Stonebeard is certainly something that if I had more time to look at this, I would have been trying to figure out what the hell Stonebeard is.
Yeah, that's so I've got one in there specific to dwarven clerics, and that one's Stonebeard. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's some good druid spells in there, some new ones, and some ones that we don't typically see. So I've reached back into the vault and pulled those out. And again, just expanding, so we should have spell lists that are roughly comparable between clerics and druids, between magic.
Which we never did, honestly. I see first level druid spell is Warg Companion.
Yeah.
You actually, summoning a little
friend who can help you out for surveillance and things of that nature.
I don't know.
There's a couple specific to my home game. There's Hearn's Blessing and Face of the Forest, which are sort of fun.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now the magic user list. By the way, the magic user, whereas cleric took up 1 page, your magic user list is going to take up, I believe, 3 pages, maybe.
Yes. So magic use, as I said. So in expanding the list to the illusionist, I didn't want to take away from the magic user, and there's a lot of spells, magic user spells, that we don't see regularly in some OSR games, and I think we should. So I've endeavored to address that. And the other thing too, Eric, is that all the spells and the magic items that you've seen come forward in my mega dungeons are included in this book. So
nice.
Yeah. So if you're playing, say, Barrow Maze, and you want to look up a spell that's in Barrow Maze, it'll be here and Dwaro Deep and Highfell and so on.
Okay, that's really cool. I was wondering where some of these new spells were coming from, because some of them look familiar, and now I know why they look familiar.
That would be why.
Okay, fair enough.
Some really great art on the bottom of these pages by Peter Pagano, who's just a dream to work with and a super fun, friendly guy.
So now, oh wow, that really is spot on artwork. You're right. Now the illusionists have a decent amount of spell lists for an often overlooked character class.
Yeah.
Prior editions, it was always like, the illusionist was usually the one that was. I don't even think that I know Swords and Wizardry didn't have an illusionist class. I forget why. There was an excuse as to why, but I think the excuse really comes down to they didn't do enough in AD&D. The initial, and Unearthed Arcana made them a bit more viable, but I like the concept of the class, and I like to see it has a bit more flexibility here, and that's really good to see. And then you go through. How many pages of spells take up? Because
there's 45,000 words of spells and about 45,000 words of monsters. They were huge sections.
Okay. So now where shall I move on? Oh, actually, just flipping through some of this, the artwork is spot on. But now at the same time, I'm glad there is an artwork on every page, and I gotta say, holy shit, that Yeah, that's a throwback over there, isn't that?
Yeah, we've got a couple little homages in there, that's for sure.
Oh my God, that is awesome. I'm looking at that. And it's like it's totally different, and yet it has much of that feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so the OD&D illusions were created by a fan, forgot his name, in a strategic review or Dragon magazine. Okay.
So the some of the art in the book, like when I was in Ireland for 2 weeks and I visited Neolithic burial mounds and so on and so forth. So I took some of the pictures and I would use that as inspiration with artists. So
Nice.
it's nice to ground. Like, so we're very much in. I know some companies are trying to take the Christianity out of game, out of Dungeons and Dragons. They're trying to take the Western Eurocentrism out of D&D, and I just don't agree with it. Like to me, trying to do that, Eric, is trying to take literacy out of Scrabble. It's trying to take crime scene investigation out of Clue. It's trying to take real estate capitalism out of Monopoly. You can't do it and keep the game what it is. So that's just my opinion on it.
No, I am not disagreeing with you in the least. I figured I'd skip ahead and get us to the monsters because that is what a lot of GMs and players gravitate toward. You can never have enough. This looks really. You have your descriptions are short enough to not be distracting. I hate when they go on for a page and a half sometimes, but this stuff here, again, stuff that we know from the OGL, but the artwork is really sweet. The layout is nice, and I don't really see much bleed over in descriptions here from one. The Sphinx does because it has enough worthwhile, but otherwise these pages line up pretty spot on. That is nice. It feels balanced. It really.
Well, there should be you only like get people fired up, like the referee fired up to run the monster, and then so Darlene has an image. She did a whole bunch of monsters as well as a full page piece, which is super awesome. And Diesel's done some monsters for me, so it's got some old school artists in there as well. And I'm very thankful to both for working with me again, and I really appreciate them both. Darlene's a dream to work with.
Oh, Darlene is just the sweetest woman in the hobby.
Oh yeah.
If they say like Steve Marsh and Merle Rasmussen are the gentleman in the hobby, she is the lady.
Yeah.
You can't define her otherwise, really. And
this is Dragonslayer is a it's just a love letter to Gary Gygax, really. It's very important to me that we honor the past and the history of the hobby, and perhaps in my mind alone, but I kind of think to myself, if there was like an alternate timeline where we didn't have the separation of Gygax and Arneson, and then TSR D&D sort of continued down one of the paths around that time, that maybe Dragonslayer connects to an alternate timeline for BX and AD&D.
I can see that. And now you also do something that many of the rule sets, I don't want to say newer rule sets, but because it started with Sword and Wizardry, not necessarily a newer OSR rule set, but you're not doing the dual AC of ascending and descending. You are, that's fine. This is the AC as I knew it and grew up with it.
Well, the thing is, it's very important to me that that's a descending AC is a foundational item, and I want people to say, "Oh yeah, we're going to run Dragonslayer and we're going to run the Sinister Secret at Saltmarsh, or we're going to run, the Ghost Tower, and you'll be able to run it seamlessly. And the other thing too, I'll just make note, because the power curve is so low in the game that, fighters aren't really getting a bonus until level 4. So you're going to have lots of play where you're not going to have any shifting armor classes. You'll be able to put it in the boxes at the bottom of the page, roll that number, add your strength or your dexterity, whatever it is, and it's a hit or it isn't. So you're not going to have, there's not much math.
That's a beautiful thing, actually. I mean, again, I really like the monster layout is pleasant. It doesn't shock, doesn't feel off balance. You don't realize that it's annoying until you're looking at something that is well laid out and balanced, and then you go, oh, others tend to throw way too much in. Magic items.
Yeah, sir.
So now we had a little discussion earlier about whether your magic items or magic is balanced against AD&D or basic. I happen to open up to my favorite magic item, and one that I crowdsourced early on in my blogging career, a wand of wonder.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
It's always a fun one.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think the power levels compare more into BX? BX was still pretty powerful magic items out there.
Well, I would say, so BX, the spells are a little bit lame because, we've got very extended durations and things of that nature. So those lean AD&D. And then the magic items also lean AD&D. So there's that. So when you do get access to the spells, they're not as powerful as BX, they're more in line with AD&D. The other things I didn't like about BX is the shadow was not considered undead. I think that's lame. There's no save for a sleep spell in BX. That's also lame because I've TPK'd parties with monsters that could cast sleep, or opposing magic users that could cast it. So it's important that there's a save there.
All right, Don from Wizard Tower Games wants to know, as the designer of this game, what's your favorite class and race?
Oh, geez. It's hard to go wrong with the human paladin because, they're pretty cool. But, with the Cyclopsmen, they can play fighters or paladins. So if you have the magic dice to roll a Cyclopsman paladin, you win. And you should be feted by your friends and lauded by your enemies.
There you go. Tom Tullis is in the room, guys.
Oh, there he is.
Everybody, tell us where the Tullis touched you. Say that 5 times fast. Now. Well, we were talking about scrolls before, and there's a limit to. Now, is it only magic users can do scrolls? Can clerics and druids also create scrolls, or not?
So the clerics can also write scrolls. Druids can. So dwarven clerics and druids, if they want, they don't have to, but they can carve rune stones, which are. In relation to, so if people are familiar with Dwaro Deep, we've got rune stones in Dwaro Deep. So those are available to dwarven clerics or human druids. And also the druids are kind of fun because they can get bonuses to their spells if they're within a certain proximity to a standing stone or a stone circle.
So now, magic items that are scrolls, can they be higher than, obviously, how else is the magic user going to find a higher level spell? They're going to find it as loot, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of like the modus operandi for the magic user and the illusionist. They're all about finding arcane lore and then trying to extrapolate new spells from it. So that's part of their to-do list.
And as they can't write scrolls higher than 3rd level, you'd have to be in a cast or die situation if you were going to use a scroll of a higher level, which you could potentially add to your book, but instead you cast it and we'll say goodbye to it. Wow, that sucks. It sucks in a good way, in a good gaming way. But man, as the one making that decision.
Well, so with the spell, right? There's a higher level spell, you still have a chance to write it into your spell book, even though you can't cast it. It's just with a little bit of a penalty.
Yeah, Tom, the art looks really, really good. Greg did some great sourcing on the artwork. He really, really did. Even I'm looking at the magic items here. These pieces that are there just to break up some of the monotony of reading through pages and pages of magic items. They're detailed. They're nice. They don't have to be overwhelming. The Girdle of Giant Strength, though, with the slight Celtic knot design going, is perfect for that. And that's really
so. We're very much in the a Western European middle age, faux middle age, as you said, and so that even on the class pages, rather, there's a little knot work, and then here and there, and standing stones, stone circles, things like that. It's all connected aesthetically in the same theme. All
right, so now I see some named items here. I'm guessing that these are from some of the adventures, like Grabthar's Golden Gauntlets and Grabthar's Great Hammer. And okay.
Yes, sir.
That's always good stuff when you can do that. Horn of the Dead on Summoning Undead.
It's kind of like a Horn of Valhalla, but it summons undead Norseman warriors.
Oh.
And they may turn on you after the combat's over.
Well, isn't that special?
Isn't that special? Yeah. So it's everything Dungeons and Dragons is a double-edged sword. It's helpful, but it could be baneful.
Definitely. Don, again, I have to compliment the art in this. It has such a nice old school feel, and it's detailed enough, I think, to please those into a more modern style RPG. I actually find it balanced to hit.
My first priority are the people who have been supporting me for 10 years. And if it appeals to anybody after that group, then that's tremendous. And I'm certainly trying to do that. But I want to appeal to the people that have been supporting me right from the word go, because it's important and meaningful, and I appreciate them.
All right. Tommy Boy wants to know what do the orcs look like. Well, we didn't go through that page, but I'll let Greg tell you what the orcs look like. Are they pig snouted?
So they're the orcs lean a little bit more Lord of the Rings in aesthetic. Having said that, there are some pig-faced orcs sprinkled through the book as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have different tribes of orcs with some different characteristics.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it hurt me. I'm running around today going, I on a perfect day, I would have been home digging through this PDF, but what digging I got a chance to do, I felt like I was reading through something that was familiar yet not, because I was catching all these little changes that Greg has done to classes and races that are familiar yet different. Again, I think Cleve and the scaling of it for the different fighter subclasses is a great way to let the fighter excel and be the powerful fighter that he is, while still allowing the other character classes there to be relevant, not just because they have special abilities that aren't Cleve, but to gain Cleve later. Kind of getting multiple attacks at 7th level.
So if you look back at AD&D multiple attacks, they're kicking in level 6, level 7, depending on the subclass. So that's when Cleve is kicking in, when the Ranger would get multiple attacks or the Paladin would get multiple attacks. And there's a good comment there in the chat, Eric, that so just about the art's not overly fantastical, and that's so I've said this before, but I want to be based in medieval fantasy. So broadly defined. Now that means that you're not going to see dungeon punk. You're not going to see ginormous swords that people couldn't logically carry. That's against the laws of physics. That's not going to happen. And in some instances, I had to dial artists back to say the sword's too big or the weapon's too big. And I provide historical references to say this is what a two-handed sword would really look like. So those are things that are very important to me, and it's one of the things. What honestly, I think that games go wrong because they divorce themselves from their Western medieval origin and they go into the realm of the fantastical, and then they just go off the deep end. Like armor looks too weird to be functional. Swords are too large to be functional. That breaks the frame for me. It's not a game I want to play.
Oh no, definitely fair. I agree with that. You can suspending disbelief is fine until you overwhelm the suspension of disbelief.
Right.
That's I have that issue with cop movies. I can handle a certain amount of that would never happen, but I can allow it to bypass. But you reach a certain level of it, and you're like walking out, and I've done it. I've walked out of the theater going, it's a crock of shit. I can't do it, man. I just can't. So I like the idea that we control it, especially where it's obvious and not needed. Marcelo has a question: dog or dragon kobold? I'm guessing dog. I see. You didn't have to ask that question, Marcelo. I think you knew the answer.
So it's really important if we think of it this way. So, like, the sweet spot for this stuff is like this big, but on the other side of that are really big uncanny valleys.
Right.
And we all know when we look at art, right? And it's like, it's okay, but it doesn't look quite right. And it's either on one side of the sweet spot or it's on the other side of the sweet spot. And those are really quite large. But what's the awesome portion is pretty narrow. And so you want to make sure that you're in there. And what does that take? Well, that takes knowing your source material. It takes being able to communicate that to artists. And then it takes the artist's willingness to take direction. And so there's multiple points there where it can go wrong. And so you have to be very clear and articulate when you're dealing with artists so that you're staying in the sweet spot and you're not in the uncanny valleys.
Makes perfectly darn good sense. Eldrad, I am seeing a fantasy medieval world, early Iron Age, post-Roman Empire.
Yeah, we're in the post-Roman Empire in the Anglo-Saxon Dark Ages, and that's the coolest time to be.
Yeah, some of my I was a history major, and that was, it was like, well, I did the World War II stuff because it was easy to research for my paper, but the fun stuff was taking the classes on early Middle Ages, Iron Age, Roman Empire, because that was the stuff where legends were made, and legends would make it into history as parts of it, or history would become legend. It was always a fun time.
Oh, that's so awesome. But the thing is, what's really cool is, so like when the Romans were in Britain, they would go by these burial mounds and they would bury coins in the ground, either before the mound or on the side of the mound. So when you go in and an archaeologist goes into those digs, one of the first things they find are Roman coins, because the Romans would leave an offering there. And because they didn't really know who created these massive burial mounds, and so it can kind of throw you off. So one of the first things you find are Roman coins at burial mounds, depending on, and then as you dig deeper down, you'll find other ages.
So let's see, RPG Grandma, have you seen Hot Fuzz with the paperwork scene? That was purposely added after talking to police officers. I got on a job in '96. A complaint report was 2 sides of a 10.5 by 14 piece of paper. I got promoted to sergeant. A complaint report was now an 8-page booklet. of 8.5 by 11 pages. By the time I left the job, I think the complaint report was now 16 pages. So yeah, and that's what you're taking on a patrol with you to write reports. So, God, Anglo-Saxon Dark Ages, awesome. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that type of setting, and certain rule sets, call out to a certain feel. I think that you could run something like the, dare I say it, the classic Midnight setting, which was for 3E. I never used the setting because I never ran 3E, but the setting itself was evocative of a great type of Tolkien-esque setting where the forces of good lost, and there's rangers and others are really in demand because they're the ones that can put out the the little areas of darkness and bring light to it. I think it's not simple, the system, but the more a system like this, like Greg's system, if you are an OSR player, if you're a player from days of old, it's something that's going to just fall into the background for you. That's why I enjoyed Sword and Wizardry so much. I didn't have to refer to the rules during the game when I ran it. So we're playing an AD&D 2E game with Joe the Lawyer. I'm going to repeat this. Buy the book with 24 pages of house rules, but buy the fucking book. And we're always looking up rules. And that's why I really love OSR rule sets, because they've figured it out. And it isn't just the rulings, not rules. When you're dealing with somebody like Greg or Rob Conley and their rule set, it's been play tested over the years in normal play, not play tested with the idea of, I'm going to publish this soon, so I need to play test this. No, it's been used in game. It has been tested by jackass players like the rest of us, who will look to push things. And we're all trying to make something to our advantage if there's a hole in the system. And when you have game designers that understand that and have years to refine it through natural play, most of those holes are going to be plugged.
Yeah.
That's really why I am looking forward to Dragonslayer, because from what I've read of it and from what I've literally read of it on the screen here, it's a system that hews close to what I would have put on paper if I was putting out a full system that was larger than Swords and Wizardry Light, which is this whole other concept. But this is the type of stuff that you want in your home campaign.
Yeah, I hope there's a third-party license, so I hope it inspires people. If you want to write a bard class, you want to write a setting, you want to put a monster book together, you want to do whatever, so you'll be able to do that. And there's really cool compatibility logos, and so you'll be able to use those, and it'll be all set to go by the time it delivers. And so and then you just set it free, and then you see what people will come up with over time.
So I see you answered Eldrad's question about death at 0 hit points. Yes, death at 0, but there are optional rules for negative, which is fine. And you know what? To be honest, my unofficial rule for negative has always been negative your level plus con modifier. So if you were a first level character with a 3 con modifier, you had 4 rounds.
So
good luck.
Yeah, in Dragonslayer, if the optional rule is if you're reduced to 0 or negative hit points, you save versus death or die, and then if you make your save, you can revive to 1 hit point in D6 rounds, I believe it is. So, but having said that, players can coup de grace monsters that are down, but monsters will also coup de grace players that are down. And I'm vicious like that. So you want to make sure if you're playing with me that you're on the screws, because monsters will do the same things to you that you're doing to them.
Yeah, you see that makes a lot of sense, and that's why the DM, since after I got out of my early years, my teen years, I quickly realized that even as a DM, that critical role rules favored the DM. They really do, because your players think they're hacking through shit, but you know what? They're constantly hacking through shit. But those critical roles that whack those players is going to accumulate over the game session.
Mhm.
And players forget that. They always like, oh, the excitement of rolling a 20. Yeah. Something rolling a 20 is you guaranteed your hit. Your hit landed. If you want critical roles and it applies to both sides,
Mhm.
you probably don't want criticals.
Yeah.
So, Eldred, I write trashy zine modules, and this looks very inspirational.
Great. Yeah, I hope it inspires zine stuff and whatever people want to do.
Yeah, my zines look like old 70s and 80s zines.
Cool.
Nice. Yes, Grandma. Critical Roles favors the monsters. Always has. Players just forget about that. That's why games like Rollmaster, if you're playing it by the rules after a handful of sessions, half the players are like half crippled, which is probably realistic for an adventuring party, but not the adventuring party that I'd want to play. So, Greg, what else do we want to take a peek at in here?
Do you want to show folks the illustration on 247?
Sure. Let me get there. Hold on. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh, come on. Why? I had it. It was working before, and now it doesn't want to do it. Oh, here we go. All right, now we'll do it. Okay. It's supposed to be showing, but it's not.
Memory issue?
I don't know. All right, finally got it. 247?
247?
Oh, holy Christmas. Hold on.
So that one's inspired by a Jim Rosloff piece in Legends and Lore.
Hold on. We're going to go single page on this one. Wow. Now, who's the artist here?
Val Schmex. He's done a lot of work for Jeff Talanian.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff put me on to him, and I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to have schedules aligned and work with him to have this piece done.
That is spot on. Holy crap. And the fighter or shirtless barbarian, whatever, doesn't look horribly unrealistic like sometimes they do. It looks really well done, and the sword isn't too large. I can see what you're talking about. Eldrad wants to know, how are the gods handled in relation to clerics?
Well, clerics have to have one. Their alignment has to be the same as the alignment of the deity. Having said that, I don't have gods in this book. That'll come in the setting, because this rule book is intended to be to fit into your home game, and your deities might be different from the ones that I run or what have you. So this book doesn't have deities in it. Having said that, I have deities in my mega dungeons, and then when I do my Gazetteer and map, probably sometime next year, I'll have deities in there.
All right, give me the quote of the night. Just show everyone that and say we're going to play this game, and heck yes, people will want to play.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for that.
Alignments are the non-alignments that we know. I don't think you changed the definitions really on the alignments. I only gave it a quick glance, but
yeah, no, alignments are standard fare. you know, but having said that, I think they're important. I know people wring their hands about alignments. I don't. I think it's a great guide if you know what each alignment is, and then you play. If you're playing a monster, you know, if you're running a game, you can play to those alignments and extrapolate behavior based on that set of guidelines.
Well, that works. Yeah, I when it came to alignment, one of the few things I'll actually say Palladium might have done better than D&D was their alignment system, because they really, explained it all very well with real world examples, which Gygax never really did.
Yeah.
Which made it very confusing for us teams. But
Yes.
yeah, this that looks like classic Conan artwork to some extent, like something I would have found in I don't know, King Conan or Savage Sword of Conan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I highlighted the Paladin in an art piece earlier in the book, and the Rangers in the frontispiece. So I wanted a piece of the Barbarian type.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Really well done. And your Barbarian doesn't go around destroying magic items, right? I mean, that's the unearthed canon.
No, they don't destroy magic items. Not too keen on them at low levels, but
that's fine. Again, it seems to me that you are taking the best or the feel of AD&D character classes that were faulty. I mean, the Cavalier Paladin was faulty as written.
Yeah.
The Barbarian was unplayable as written in a party.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't stop us from using it, but if you played it as written, if you role played it as you were supposed to, it was not plausible. But this is really nice, Greg. Really, really sweet stuff.
Thanks, man.
Well, let's go back to us on a full page spread for a wee bit. So, what's your next plan in the Dragonslayer? Is it going to be the God Book, or is it going to be?
So I've done last winter. I worked with Glen Seal to create a 34 by 34 full color map of my campaign world, and so I'm going to do a gazetteer to go along with the map, and I'll kickstart that at some point next year or the year after.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. It should be awesome. And yeah, I was going to do that after the last two mega dungeons, but people have been clamoring for the campaign map. So, and what I've done is so the digital versions of the map, there'll be one that's like the DM version with all the names and places and things on it. Right. There'll be another one with no names or places but hexes. And then there'll be another one with no names and no hexes, so that people can play it however they like.
Now that's very cool. And as somebody who does the vast majority of my gaming over a VTT, I like to see when that's done. Mm-hmm. You know, it isn't always intuitive to those that don't use VTTs. That something like that would be very useful. But yeah, that's going to be very useful.
But it's so badass, and it'll take up like a full wall. Like you'll be able to put that thing up there, and it'll be great. And the art is just fantastic. Like Glen did a tremendous job, and you know, because it's my baby, I had to like micromanage it. So I kept having to like say, I'm really sorry, but can we just tweak this a little bit, you know, here and there, because it's going to be for posterity, and I wanted to make sure it was right. And he was very gracious and very kind, and I was very thankful to have him work on the map.
Griffin wants to know what will happen in 2024. Any guesses to what 2024 will bring? Are we talking for Greg? Or are we talking about RPGs in general? Like,
well, I hope that Dragonslayer, you know, anytime a new rulebook comes out, it takes a little bit for it to find its feet. But I hope that it does, and I hope the you know, the quality of the art will give it some shelf life. And so if people haven't seen the cover, that's what it looks like. I can get the glare
Oh, nice.
out of there. So
Oh,
that's
hold on.
Jeff.
Hold
Jeff
on a second.
Nickley.
Hold on here. I'm going to give you a
Yes,
solo
okay.
so people can get a nice little view of that. That looks sweet. Wow. Damn.
So there it is.
That is really nice.
It took me like a year and a half of bugging Jeff to get him to say yes.
It's okay. It looks like it was worth it.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It's tremendous. It's great. Very happy with it.
So, Griffin, what will 2024 bring? 2024 is going to not bring a VTT from WotC. I don't believe that they'll have it done in time, which is going to cause an issue with their bottom line because that's already built into the monies that they're supposed to be making. And I don't know if we'll even see it. We'll launch in what, mid-May, before they remove the dates during PAX. So,
Well, they're long on promises and short on delivery.
yeah, that's I like I said in yesterday's video. I do have good sources. My sources are telling me that they are sitting on a bunch of printed product that is not selling, and they are, and put it real quickly. They are leaning heavily into digital moving forward, and would love if by the end of 2025, early 2026, all but the core rule books will only be in digital, and even the core rule books aren't going to be heavily printed. So
yeah, there'll be more gaming stupid in 2024.
we like our gaming stupid. We already know who won for 2023. I mean, there have been some we'll have to do some honorable mentions, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, WotC will just we really should put a prize together and mail it to the WotC.
You need to do end of year awards for gaming.
End of year awards and just have somebody 3D print an award for this year in gaming stupid, and just get a label printer. It could be a real shitty label printer. Just 2023, gaming stupid first place award goes to WotC, and then just mail it. And again, we've got enough sources that we've got a decent chance that we'll find out what the response was. I'm sure it will be to put it into the circular receptacle.
I always enjoy those sessions that you and Mike have about this week in gaming stupid, and as soon as you see that, you know who's winning the weekly award.
Oh well, I mean, others do try occasionally to see if they can get up there, but yeah, why? WotC knows what they're worth, and honestly, WotC this year, people go, well, WotC made money this year. Sure, they did, because they were getting money from Baldur's Gate 3. If you took Baldur's Gate 3 out of the equation, D&D lost money this year. Okay, but they're happy. And this is again rumors that I've heard. Two sources, so I would like to say it's confirmed, but if I can't name them, they're not confirmed. But that they understand that a switch to digital or a move to a digital is going to alienate a significant portion of their current customer base, and they're okay with that.
Well, it's fine. I mean, Eldrad Wolfsbane in the chat there is saying that the comment, like Kyle Binks said, old white guys can't leave the hobby fast enough. Well, we make pretty damn contributions to the hobby. Thank you very much. So there's that.
Yeah, that was Kyle, the man who was going to go around telling us that the change in the OGL is for the good of the community.
Right.
It's to protect you.
Right.
It's to make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
We only have your good your best of intentions in mind, and of course our wallet. but your best of intentions is where we are here. So, RPG Grandma, they might fumble it bad like 4E, but it will not be as cool as 4E or 5E. Well, here's the thing. 4E also suffered because they were banking on digital, they were banking on microtransactions and the VTT. It's the last time they tried a VTT. And that ended with 2 dead programmers with a murder-suicide. So now they've hired hundreds of programmers. And, from people that I've seen who've seen this program in operation, it seems to be decent. But the issue is WotC is willing to give up part of its market share, but their hope is the market will shrink in that case anyway. But they're willing to give up some of their customers to bring the rest of their customers into a closed box where they control the market, they control the data, they control the sales. There's no third party. It's all them. It's all profit. It's like if you subscribe to Microsoft or to Apple, but they want to be that for RPGs.
Yeah, and you're right, and that will alienate people. But then the younger people coming up won't know any different, and they'll just be microtransactioned.
Right.
So that's all fine and dandy. But in the long term, like the thing is, people want to play RPGs to be social. We want to sit around tables. We want to. If you're gonna BS past the city guard, people actually want to hear that at the table. That's the fun part of role-playing games. And to abstract it just to the digital and to have digital tokens and to move your figure around the table, it has no appeal to me. I can understand some appeal, but that's not really how I want to play at all.
Was Kyle fired? No, Kyle was not fired. Come on. None of the people who make the bad decisions are ever fired because they made the bad decisions. You wouldn't fire them. No. You fire the people who probably said things like, "That's a really bad decision."
And when somebody does put foot in mouth and they don't fire them, it means they condone the behavior. And simple as that.
I mean, Mike Merles was fired. Mike got, I'm not going to say whether Mike's actions were right or wrong, but Mike got a lot of flack, both from without and within the company, for essentially supporting the OSR, right? Have the names of people like Zach Smith, the pundit, the Greyhawk Grognard at the beginning of the basic rules for these years for being consultants on D&D Next. And then one of those 3 absolutely shot the bed. And then it became, oh, you're a supporter of this. Times they are changing.
Well, they are, and the dust hasn't settled from the whole OGL stuff, and it won't for a while yet. But we want to be well positioned when it does, and I think we will.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer the obligatory question: what's happening with no longer Swords of Wizardry Continual Light. Matt's got his own banner out there now, his own company. I'm not looking to steal any thunder, so Continual Light. Hey, it's laid out. It has corrections that need to happen to the layout. The cover is done. It could theoretically go to print real quickly. But the OGL for 3.0 is still in the wind and still in the question. And you know what? When WotC sorts that shit out, then I'll sort my shit out. I have enough balls in the air and enough plates spinning at the time that I don't need to add another one. My wish list is fuller than my bookshelves. James, I understand completely. And I need more bookshelves. How about that?
Yeah, go to the library.
VTT with dynamic lighting, even with a simple map, provides fantastic VTT immersion. Again, I am the asshole that when Roll20 was becoming big, They reached out to me before I even had a YouTube channel. I just did occasional videos, and they reached out to me because I was a blogger, and they wanted me. I was talking about their VTT on my blog. They wanted me to record a session. So just folks, just so you understand, even back then, my regular game included Joe the Lawyer, Greg Christopher, and a number of others. And I responded that if I record the session, a 3-hour session is going to be about 20 minutes of usable material after we take out the jokes and the politically incorrect comments. And I don't use tokens. I just use Fog of War and a pointer and a dice roller. I don't even use handouts because I didn't use them when I played face to face.
Yeah, when I play online, I point the camera at the table, and I've got miniatures and terrain, and
okay.
The people who are there, and the people playing remotely just cast it on their TV, and away we go.
With the Tower Don, your blog was the largest gaming blog on the internet, pretty much. One of the larger OSR blogs, one of the larger and the larger number of, but not one of the not the largest. I was certainly Rugnardi at its top was certainly doing far more traffic than I was at the time. But the market changes, and
You have to respond.
I still do the blog, but I don't do 4 posts a day anymore. Retirement means I need to have a life. Figure that one out. It was easier when I could put up 2 blog posts during lunch at work on my laptop. Somehow that always happened, but I don't know. So Greg, we lost our co-host to Cox Internet going down. If this had happened, if we were doing this last night, we might have had a problem because New York City had a transformer fire that put a power surge across the metropolitan area.
Okay.
I saw our lights flicker on our TV set go out last night. I don't know if my computer rebooted it or not. I wasn't looking at it. So, but yeah. So yeah. Welcome to 2023. I'm sure 2024 is gonna have a lot more surprises for us.
I'm sure it
will. So, folks, on that note, truth in advertising. I've known Greg for years. I consider Greg a friend. I really do appreciate Greg giving me a peek at Dragonslayer because it looks really good. And I am, I was saying to myself, I need to run another system. My position will come up in the rotating DM spot in my group at some point, and I thinking that I might do Dragonslayer over my own Continual Light, and that's because I see Greg doing a lot of stuff that I wish I had thought of, but of course I don't have 300 pages to play with. I only got 16 when I write. I can't write like Greg, but it really looks that good and inspirational. I am looking forward to my hard copy. If you backed it, you should be too. And if you didn't back it, reach out to Greg. I set this up and I almost forgot to put it up. Hold on a second. barrowmaidscomplete@gmail.com. If you want to basically back the Kickstarter after the fact, email Greg. He'll hook you up so you can be one of the first to have Dragonslayer in your hands. Like I said, it looks good and it feels familiar. It's like you can't North Texas is my home away from home. This might be my home away from my Swords and Witchery Light stuff, which is fine. I'm very happy with that. I can't run a campaign with Light. I only can run convention games. Other than that, folks, again, huge thank you to Greg. A lot of fun.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate it very much.
Yeah, and thank you to Glenn, who was here, at least in spirit, remained. You'll have, I guess, Glenn will return in 2 weeks. Oh no, that'll be a third. All right, Glenn will be back in 3 weeks. There's the 29th. There might not be a loss. We'll see. We'll figure it out. All right, folks. On that note, as always, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll the dice, roll them well. I'll be back again tomorrow with Gamers Health with my wife, Rach. We may have a special guest. We're in discussions. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. but as always, it should be a good one. All right, folks. I'll catch you all later.